With your background in neuropharmacology and research and development of psilocybin therapy, why is it important to challenge modern treatment with ancient medical methods?
I think that the really important thing to know is that they will be powerful, whether you are aware of their power or not, it seems. And it really is a reflection of how you're interacting with this tool.
Welcome to the show, where we discuss time-tested and science-supported tools for better health, long life, and pleasures.
If you're curious about psychedelics and their medicinal properties, then this episode is for you. I'm Lilian Zeltzer, and for over 3 decades, I researched, practiced, and hunted for natural stimulants for better health, longevity, and pleasures. In the process, I discovered many time-tested and science-supported natural stimulants and met numerous wonderful experts who, together with me, share their knowledge in this show with those who want to use it. Because as Hippocrates said in the 4th century BC, if you're not your own doctor, you are a fool. Our guest today is Molly Hickey, multi-talented, young, lazy, psychedelic neuropharmacologist, researcher, writer, illustrator, and science communicator who wants to see a revolution in psychiatry where people will have better access to natural therapies for better health, longevity, and pleasures. Welcome to the show, Molly.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Lilian. It's really a pleasure to be speaking with you about this.
Psychedelics have been an essential part of human life since prehistoric times. Remember those Greek oracles in Delphi, and remember those rituals. For thousands of years, people all over the world have relied on these substances for various physical, mental, and emotional medicinal effects. However, over time, most of these gifts of nature, let's call them that, became outlawed. Why? What caused it? And what factors contributed for their comeback?
This is obviously a huge question because, as you mentioned, it was a common practice, it seems, more and more in the evidence across the whole world. And I don't know so much about the initial movements away from working with psychedelics, but I feel like maybe it could be modeled by what happened recently in the 60s, where people were doing work with psychedelics in research and seeing the promise in healthcare. And then some people, take it too far and there's harm caused because these are super powerful tools. And then also some authorities felt like the messages that were coming through in the teachings with the plants or with other substances that are psychedelic were creating a challenge in terms of controlling people or controlling them to their agenda. So when I was thinking about this, as you mentioned it, I was thinking, about the UK, because this is where I probably have the best understanding of the history, as it's where I'm from, that mushrooms were clearly part of Druid history. And then it was probably when the Romans came that this was moved out of the mainstream culture. And it seems probably to have come down to power. Same with witchcraft, right? Like fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of them coming back into awareness, again, I have the most, I'm going to say accurate-ish idea of what's happening in this round, which might reflect what happened in the past as well, of the recognition that in neglecting these therapeutics, we seem to be finding ourselves in a massive problem, or that there is an increasing desperation, basically, for something that can help people who are experiencing what's termed, psychiatric illness or emotional distress. And the severity and the prevalence of this, alongside the challenges that have been faced in any other attempts to develop a treatment, are leading to and more openness to exploring alternatives, and slowly research was getting funded, and then the evidence is mounting, and here we are with those companies starting all over to put them into drug development. It's a mix of the need and that driving a return of appreciation of evidence.
So finally, we woke up. We went in a full circle and came back to nature for answers, for medicinal effects of those natural stimulants. Do you think it's something, there's something about psychedelics that people need to know before they jump into using psychedelics? How dangerous can they be?
I think that the really important thing to know is that they will be powerful, whether you are aware of their power or not, it seems. And it really is a reflection of how you're interacting with this tool. I think that the most important thing to know is that that period after the psychedelic experience is as important as the acute effects in itself, in terms of laying down like changes that might set in more permanently afterwards, and to go in without expectation at the same time, like prepare yourself to be exploring parts of your psyche that you probably haven't been in touch with previously. And so, prepare to be surprised. And if things don't, you don't have revelations that you think are changing your life, maybe that's because you're just not seeing them, and actually they're there. And even if that feels like, oh, I drank ayahuasca and nothing happened, there's still something really powerful in there. The medicine always works, but that is how I see it personally, because works is a term that also has lots of different ways of looking at it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I also know that every year you spend 6 months in Madagascar, that dream island filled with the world's most unique flora and fauna, like those stunning orchids and massive baobab and magic volcanga trees and those funny monkeys and moors. Does this choice of where you are, of or country, relate to your background in neuropharmacology?
Yeah, it comes from the same curiosity about really how the mind works and how we work, and conditioning, and what that conditioning has led to in terms of how my mind works and how I relate to life. And I've been to quite a few different continents and places and had many adventures, but I think that the thing that has captured me here is that the way that people's mind works is like on the other side of balance. For me, I feel like life is about seeking or experiencing imbalance to bring us into balance. And Madagascar is somewhere where people seem to have, in general, got the acceptance, the love, and the self, like the freedom to just be, that self-acceptance, that kind of, this is how it is.
Life
and that's okay.
More enjoyable there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've got that nailed, but it comes also at a cost that I can see as well, which is really interesting. That it's like we have so much to teach each other. And when I come here and interact with people who are Malagasy, it's like it is a psychedelic experience, in that I see all of these blockages that I am experiencing in being as at ease in myself as they are. Recognizing as well that maybe the motivation and the desire to evolve that I feel is in me is sometimes not so present in them. Like if they can't do something, then they just won't want to try. And it's not just, it's just, there's so many questions I have in like, what are the roots of the differences in the way that we believe and see the world? Yeah, I absolutely love it here. It feels like freedom, but I also have been asking this question of like, clearly the guys here aren't more free or like, it has me asking, what is that definition of freedom? Because I'm the one who's moving between a fishing village here and back to London, etc. So clearly I have freedom, but there's something here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really magic.
And you should enjoy life, especially if you discovered the power of nature so early in your life. I'm talking about ability of psychedelics to create a brain neurochemical reset on the biochemical level, which enhances neuroplasticity in ways that traditional treatment can't match. With your background in neuropharmacology and research and development of psilocybin therapy, why is it important to challenge modern treatment with ancient medical methods?
It all comes down to the way in which we're developing and developing drugs, which is a reflection of how we understand psychiatry, in my opinion, having worked on the inside. We develop these diagnoses to try and understand how to respond to different people. So each doctor has a framework by which to respond. If someone is presenting with these different symptoms, then because this treatment worked for the previous people with that set of symptoms, it's more than likely going to work for this person. But those diagnoses, when it comes to psychiatry, are a description of a set of symptoms. And so when we are developing drugs in the Western world, it's like, oh, success is reducing the diagnosis. And the diagnosis is the symptoms. So if we reduce the symptoms, we reduce the diagnosis. And that means that the whole early stage of the drug development process, where you're trying to gain evidence to justify investing and like the health risks of putting a new drug into people in clinical development, is based upon animal models, where we try and model different behaviors that are associated with depression, like insomnia or anxiety or like low motivation. And for example, one of these models that has been the model for depression in drug development is one where they put animals in a situation that they can't escape from. For example, hanging a mouse by the tail or putting a rat in water and seeing how long they struggle for before they give up. And if they struggle for longer, then the drug that has caused that is antidepressant. And it just is quite concerning to me, because I received antidepressants or SSRIs for 7 years, and I felt like they were working, in that I was functioning, I was going to school, I was going to university, but it created a massive amount of distance, I feel, from what I would inevitably have to work on and develop tools for if I were to come off of these drugs. And they weren't developed for long-term use. They do what they do. And so we can use this tool sagely, like with wisdom, if we recognize, okay, it's basically creating a distance, a disconnection from, maybe it's your heart that is sending signals, say like alarm bells. That distance can be useful maybe if you recognize, okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months to have a break, to allow myself to make some like changes in habits, or my husband's just died and I need to move house, or whatever, these sorts of things. But if you are considering them antidepressant and taking them for the rest of your life, maybe that's actually inhibiting like what your soul is here for, or like a deep resolution in something that's in the unconscious that is going to be pulling strings somewhere. And if it doesn't come out in feelings, then it might come out in your physical health.
Thank you. Considering that psychedelics can be so useful and they are so valuable, would you suggest that people go to a professional for at least the first experience to find out the dosage, the right time to take it, and be prepared for the post effects? What is your stand on that?
With most things in life, the trick is, I think, to listen to your body. But that ability to listen to our body is something that's been untrained. So it is therefore clearly of value to seek wisdom from other people, especially if they find you. Like if you encounter someone who has such knowledge, then it's quite likely that they've come onto your path for a reason. I feel like also if we seek a professional of whatever nature, whether it's like a therapist or a doctor or a shaman or like a whatever nature, someone who's experienced with these, then there's inherently an intention behind your engagement with the compound or with the medicines. Because of that like I am seeking this person because my intention is to do something, to work with respect for the power of what I'm potentially going to sit with. So that I think is always going to be helpful rather than a party environment, for example, where that respect for what you may be encountering might not be there. I would also say that there's, really listen to who you feel comfortable with. Also bear in mind the different frames of reference that each person might have. So for example, if you speak to a old school psychiatrist, they might be particularly wary of these compounds, not because of personal experience, but because of propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And equally, someone who's like, take everything, who, for example, has personally found a lot of healing in these medicines or compounds, they might be like, yes, take this. It worked for me, so it will work for you. And that equally could be out of balance. And don't expect anyone else's experience to be reflected in your own, because that is the whole thing, that we're all different and therefore we'll interact with everything differently and be shown different things. So there's a danger in having someone saying that this will definitely work, because it can lead to an expectation that can actually cause for people to feel like, oh, it didn't do the same thing for me, so it didn't work and there might be something wrong with me, especially if we have narratives that are associated with depression of I am the problem.
But not everyone is sick and looking at psychedelics as medicine. There are a lot of people who just want to experience out-of-body experiences, this magic flying experiences and other stuff that we read about. I'm one of those. When I was at Madagascar, I experienced a potion that was made out of seeds of the Vukanga tree. It was a ceremonial African psychedelic recipe that actually sent me flying. Well, I will print under this video. I'll place a printable copy of my experience. It doesn't mean that you have to follow it, but it's something interesting. Have you ever experienced Vukanga tree recipes?
No, I haven't. I'm really interested in this because the only psychoactive of an altered states of consciousness nature, I mean, there's like lots of cola and lots of cat and like stimulants flying around here. But are these seeds, these big dream seeds? It's not this, I suppose, that you're talking about.
Yes.
It is this. Okay.
Yes.
Wow, no, I haven't had anyone prepare it properly. We tried to smoke it, and it didn't sound like it had the effect. And this was also prior to me really appreciating the way that, like, the delicate nature of working with plants, of the it is a relationship. I mean, sure, you can engage with it like, oh, this is a drug and it will do something for me. But maybe if also recognizing that I'm inviting a spirit into my
It was
realm, then maybe the effect would be extremely different.
It was a ceremonial African psychedelic that was used in ritual. It wasn't just a drink. It was together with the movement, with chanting and other stuff.
Exactly.
But I would like to talk now about Shambhala. Can you tell us about it and the epic adventures Madagascar that you offer?
Yeah, so I mean, this whole adventure has been one of serendipity for me. I was coming to Madagascar and I met this guy on the plane, and he was building this big house and had these ideas of, you know, having kind of like a space that gave people a taste of adventure. And then I ended up getting involved because it just was too good a match. I use the space to host people who are wanting to have a bit like to drop out, tune in, and like realign with their projects and kind of have this co-creation motivation vibe. So at the moment, I've got a psychedelic integration coach and a writer with me because we're at the beginning of the season. And yeah, so it's like fertile ground for inspiration, alignment, and collaboration. So
Beautiful.
yeah,
I can imagine myself being there and exploring ethnobotanicals with you.
I hope that happens so much.
Well, on this note, I have to say big thank you to you, Molly, for sharing your knowledge and experiences and your discoveries with our audience. I'm sure that there will be a lot of inquiries, and your details and details of Shambhala will be under this video. So I encourage people to reach out to Molly and write to her about questions. Do you consult online or in person?
Mostly online, unless you happen to be up in the Indian Ocean for winter time anyway.
Yes.
But then I also go around Europe. If you are in the UK and you would like to consult, I'm very happy for that.
Thank you again.
Fly me in. Very welcome.
And have a beautiful day. It is evening for me, but it is morning for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lillian. I very much enjoyed our conversation. And yeah, I look forward to following your work.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any of the new episodes. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, please put them below the video. I do read them. If you are looking for a good, reliable source of specific ingredients, experts, services, or products, click on the resources link under this video. To health, long life, and pleasures.